Knife's edge. This morning, John Rocky will talk about how we balance in life and how we can stay safe by staying sharp. You'll be giving us a tutorial on how to keep one of the most important tools for humankind in good shape. Please help me welcome John with Living on the Edge. Living on the Edge.
14,000 feet up in the air. Sheer cliff, maybe 4,000 feet of cliffside on this side, 400 feet down to a boulder field on this side. Walking along a path 5 feet wide with rocks and cracks. You ever seen the little GoPro videos of people like, there's these spines in, I think, Sweden, that they're like hopping along the top, but that's like 6 inches wide, and they're just like tiptoeing along it, and somehow doing it. I watched one of those videos recently, and I went, oh, I've done that. Sierra Blanca Peak in Colorado is the highest peak in this little range that traps the Great Sand Dunes. Has anybody been to the Great Sand Dunes in Colorado? It's the middle of the Colorado high mountains. There's this kind of a catcher's mitt for sand. And there's these giant dunes that are 400, 500 feet high, wow, and a stream that undercuts the base of them, so that's the steepest slope possible. But the catcher's mitt is made up of these 14,000 foot peaks. And in Colorado, there's this thing called trying to bag all the 14ers. So people try to do all the 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado. I've done, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them, and they've all been a great experience. But that was my first one. I was 10 years old, just kind of a kid figuring it out with full-on frame pack doing Boy Scouts, and we're hiking up as far as possible, and we had a base camp at, I don't know, 11,000 feet or so, and then we did 3,000 feet the next day. And we tried to get up super early because you want to get off the mountain by noon. Because afternoon, thunderclouds roll in and you get lightning. So we're scrambling up there, and we get to the top, and then we're coming down, and all of a sudden, I look, and we're on this knife edge of a peak. And I start to freak out a little bit. Start to have a little panic attack. And everybody else is past me. I'm the last person in the group. And I just kind of sit there and lay there for a minute and get myself regulated and realize the only way I'm getting down safely is by going down this path. That's the only choice I have. I can stay up here, I can get struck by lightning, I can have people come back and try to get me, or I can just do it. That was living on the edge in a not so safe manner, but it was doable. Thousands of people have done that hike. And it was something I was able to accomplish. 300 feet further down, there was a glacier field, and we got to like saw down on our gloves and feet. It was a great time. So I went from super adrenaline from freaking out to super adrenaline from having a good time. I think a lot of life, we're kind of living on the edge. If you get yourself into a space where you're comfortable financially, socially, your relationships that you have with all of the basic wants and needs that people have, you're in great shape and good job. I think that's very few people that get to that spot and continue to maintain that spot. Because something always happens. Something happens. We have an injury, we have a car accident, we have a loved one get sick or die. We're always kind of living on the edge, and we're having to rebalance ourselves. Now last week, I took out my keys and my pocket knives and left them on that corner, and I had left one of my pocket knives here. Chuck, did you see a bench-made knife when we were leaving? I thought it was probably gone.
Sure.
What?
There's a knife.
Oh my gosh, it's there. Yes.
You did?
Yes.
All right, pocket knives. I'm so happy.
Yes,
All right, I was kicking myself so bad. I was like, no. All right, so I always carry a pocket knife. I actually always carry 2 pocket knives. The other one I actually put away in my jacket, so I didn't forget it this time. But the idea is, knives are an important tool. I'm not trying to scare anybody with pulling out a knife, just let you know. So this is my grandfather's knife. He used it for hunting and other stuff. And I've used it a lot for processing different meat, use it in the kitchen too, and it's just a very good blade. Now, with a knife, you have one edge and you have another edge. And the idea is you're taking these edges And you're trying very hard to keep that point to be as tiny as possible with a good bevel. Now, a sharp knife is a safe knife. Has anybody ever heard that expression?
Many times.
Has anybody tried to use a super dull knife? How dangerous is that? It's sharp enough to cut, but it's not cutting really well. Try to cut a carrot, it plops off to the side. A dull knife is a dangerous knife. So, how do you keep a knife sharp? This is something that it should be basic 101 knowledge. This should be something you learn when you're like 4 or 5 years old. Maybe a little older, depending on the kid. But how do you keep a knife sharp so it's safe? Well, basically you're trying to keep that edge from curling over, getting dented, or getting damaged. And to do that, cooking in a kitchen, you can use a little tuner. And so you gently go down each side, and what you're doing is you're feathering that edge. You're trying to keep that edge straight. You're trying to keep that from getting out of whack. Kind of like our systems when we get deregulated with life, how we get thrown out of whack. So we're trying to keep that straight out. When stuff gets way out of line, and your blade is way off, you can use different sharpeners. So there's stones that you can use. There's also these fancy-dancy little edgers where you have a carbide and a ceramic edge. So the carbide edge, you can take your knife and run it through a few times, and that's taking off the burrs. It's taking off the chunks of stuff that gets you out of line, out of your normal path of the blade. Then you can use the ceramic side, which fine-tunes that edge and gets that edge in just the right proportion, just the right angle, so that you have a very nice blade with a very sharp point. Now this isn't perfect, there's other edgers and stones that are much better, but for a simple kitchen device, you can do a lot with a little tool like this. I think this is like $4 or $5. And I've used this from everything from to giant machetes to little teeny tiny knives that I was using for crafts. So I encourage you, find something that can be your sharpener. Find something that can be your tool. And I didn't know what John's theme was going to be today, but it kind of fits. If you're stressing out, you're finding yourself getting off track, and you're going out of line, what can you do to tune yourself back up? What can you do to sharpen yourself? What can you do to keep yourself so that you have the finest edge possible, so that you can slice through the chaos of life? You can chop through those carrots that are coming down and trying to tumble on your way in a way that will get you through safely. I think we all got some different tips on things to do, whether you're centering yourself, you're being mindful, you're reading, you're going through and you're trying to take out the noise, extraneous noise of the world. There's all sorts of ways to tune yourself up. And I encourage you to try to find a way to be in tune. And if you're getting out of tune, go talk to a friend, and maybe they'll give you a song to listen to, or something else to get you back on track. So, takeaways. Keep yourself sharp, keep your knife sharp, keep your fingers